As a landlord, it's always a question, how do we work around rent arrears? In Victoria, the rent is payable in month in advance, but it can be agreed to be paid weekly or on a fortnightly basis. When do a tenant fall in arrears? A tenant will fall arrears on the first due date on the next month's rent. As an example, if the tenant is paid up to the 31st of March in a particular year, on the 1st of April, the tenant will definitely be overdue. A good property management team will always take the step from the day one to make sure that the rental arrears will not go out of control. What are our options to recover a tenancy arrears? As per legislation, we are not allowed to send a termination notice to the tenant until the 15th day. That is the 15th day after a 14 days arrears. We can send an email, we can send a letter, or we can call the tenant and follow up and remind, because we don't know what happened. But as per the legislation, we can do a 15-day termination notice and give the tenant another 14 days. It is very difficult to recover a tenant when we have to give 28 days for them to pay the rent. After sending the termination notice, if the tenant pays before the termination date, the letter will always get void. But if the tenant does this 4 times, on the 5th time, we can terminate the tenant and the tenant doesn't have an option to pay the rent and stay in the property because they've done it 5 times. What happens if the tenant does not pay the rent by the termination date? We can do a VCAT application and ask for a hearing. On this hearing, VCAT will always give an order for the tenant to vacate the place or pay the rent. If the tenant does not do either, we have to go to the VCAT and get a warrant of possession. It is understood that this is a painful process for the landlords, but a good property management team will always make sure that the things will not go out of hand. Share your thoughts and questions below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.